Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to the April 26th meeting of the City Club of Florence. As a reminder for today's audience and the speakers you're going to hear, if there's something that upsets you, please do not call the library. It has nothing to do with the library. They're completely innocent. You'll have to contact City Club instead. Therefore, any and all comments made by anyone are the sole responsibility of the person making the comments. City Club thanks the Spiceland Public Library for providing this space at no cost, and they're not responsible for the City Club's programming. As a special note, the next month's City Club meeting will be held at a different location. For the month of May only, City Club will be held at the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship building at the corner of Highway 101 and Heseda Beach Road. Today's speaker is Harlan Springer, who is a founding member of the Public Arts Committee of the City of Florence. Mr. Springer is also the manager of the Florence Regional Arts Alliance, also known as FRA. He will discuss, amongst other topics, the value and impact of public art. Does art have any effect on what tourism provides? Please welcome Harlan Springer.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here again. So, there's a lot going on in the world, right? Politically, locally, schools, sewers, taxes, problems. So, in the midst of all that, do the arts matter? And why should you care what's going on in the arts? Do they contribute anything? Do they do anything? Does it really matter what happens in the arts? So, we're going to talk about that for the next few minutes. I'm going to show you lots of neat pictures. We're going to talk about what the Florence community values in art. We're going to talk a little bit about public art. We're going to talk about what FRA is doing. And also, I want this to be an interactive kind of discussion. So if I say something that really offends you, you need to, hey, stop, I have a question. This isn't designed as a lecture. So if you have something to say, you want to ask me a question, just do it. There'll be time at the end to do that as well. Okay? So let's have some fun. So, if I can find my clicker here. What we're going to talk about here is what's the cultural impact of the arts, what's the economic impact of the arts, and what's the impact of fraud. First of all, what do Americans think about the arts? This is a nationwide study that was just done. 86% of Americans believe arts and culture improve my community's quality of life and livability. And 79% have visited or taken part in an arts and culture activity. So people aren't just saying they like the arts, they're going, they're doing it, they're participating. And 79% of Americans think that the arts are important to my community's economy and local jobs. 79% agree that the arts attract travelers and are good for tourism. And 53% say they think about art when they think about a place to go have a vacation. By the way, how about that for a piece of public art? You think we ought to have that here?
Yes.
Let's do that. So, that's all well and good. Arts makes you feel good. But what's the economic impact of the arts? Does it really contribute anything? Well, we decided to find out. There's a study that goes on every 5 years from the Americans for the Arts. It's called the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. It's never been done in Florence before. So we did it and we just completed it in 2023. The first thing we did was we looked at what happened in the state of Oregon. And the study showed that in Oregon, arts and culture account for $9.3 billion and 62,000 jobs. Well, okay, what does that mean? Well, that puts arts and culture up there with agriculture and the wine industry and major industries in the state. Arts and culture is a significant factor in the economic impact of the state of Oregon. So what about here? What do we do here? Well, first thing we did was we contacted lots of arts and cultural organizations, and you see the list here. City Lights, Chamber, Event Center, FRA, and we asked them to give us some information about how much money they spend to promote the arts here, and we captured all that information. And we found out that there's about $7.3 million spent in Florence each year on arts and culture. $7.3 million locally on arts and culture. We also passed out this survey at about almost 1,000 local events here. At the Rooney Days Arts Festival, at classic car shows, and other events, museums. I want to apologize personally to any of you that I accosted while I made you sign this. You know, some people tried to get away from me without filling this out. No chance of that. Plus, some people would say, you know what, I'm a local person. I don't spend any money. You know, I say, well, wait, you came to this event, right? Yeah, well, you're going to have lunch. Yeah, you're going to have a beer. Yeah, well, you're going to buy a t-shirt. Yeah, well, so we captured all that data here. And this is what it said. I want you to look at this number at the very top. Audience members spend almost $65 each every time they come to an arts and culture event. That's in addition to the price of the ticket. Think about that for a minute. Every time you come to an art festival, the businesses around town get $65 worth of business from drinks and souvenirs and all that. It's all listed there. So if you think the arts and culture events don't matter, think about $65 each. Okay, that's how you get to 7.3 million. So the arts has a definite economic impact. It's also 118 jobs locally. Again, what does that mean? That puts us in the top 5 in the community, right up there with the hospital and schools and the casino. The arts and culture jobs here are significant and meaningful. So this should get people's attention. And also, we asked them in the same survey, what do you think about the arts here locally? And 84% said they feel a great sense of loss if this activity would no longer fade. And 87% said my attendance is a way of encouraging art, encouraging that this activity is preserved for future generations. By the way, these pictures, that's Crow on the top, that's a Crow performance. And the one on the bottom is the mural in the middle school. So we're out there. Art is out there. Now, let's talk about public art for a minute, also part of the culture in this community. You may have seen this piece right here is the one right by Waterfront Depot. We have this program called Art Exposed, and basically it's the sculptures you see down on Bay Street and up on the highway. And there's 14 locations now. We started with 5. Everybody loved it, so now we have 14. And what that does is every 2 years, those sculptures rotate around. We pay the artist a stipend for 2 years, and it's there for sale for 2 years. We sold like 4 pieces, and the city gets commission, by the way. And then when it's sold, then the artist can come back and put another one back. For example, we were talking about the fish before the meeting here. The fish that was out on 126 and 101, the port fell in love with that. The port said, we gotta have that fish. So the port bought it, and they put it down. So we called the artist, we said, okay, you have another one of those? And he said, yeah, he made another one. That's the other one he's talking now. So every 2 years, those things rotate around. But what's the value of that? Well, I did a calculation. The art that is in town, there's $440,000 worth of art, public art, that's replaced in the community. That's art that people would not have normally seen had we not had this program. And it's art from all over the country and British Columbia. One of the pieces that's on the highway right now is from an artist in New York City. She came out personally to install it. It's a colorful piece of like Columbia Bank, you know. And so this is an economic driver. Public art makes a difference. It makes a difference in what the public sees. It also makes a difference in what the community looks like. When you come into a community and you see art, it makes you think, you know, these people care. Maybe what I should do is stop here for a while and have a drink, have dinner, stay all night, start a business, something. This community is alive, is what public art says to them. Here's some examples, and hopefully you've seen most of these. There's the one that was up by the chamber. There's the one that's called Encore, the ballerina, which is right over on the highway. There's the fish. That's the first fish. Now we have 2 fish. And of course,
Bravo.
you didn't think I was going to leave without talking about it.
I intervention.
You've been disappointed, okay? Art should start a conversation. There's living proof that art causes conversation. Yeah, right there. You know, yeah, and the more people see it, the more they like it, and they accept it, and the people, particularly who see it for the first time, you know, they think it's great. And as you know, a lot of history there. There's the bridge, there's Native Americans, but the main point here is that whether you like it or not is not as important as it makes you think. You look at it and you go, oh, what is that? Well, what's in there? And then you like it or you don't. You tell your friends, well, do you like that? No, I don't like it. Why don't you like it? And you start a conversation about art. And that's what art should do. That's what public art in particular should do, is start a conversation. And so my legacy to Florence is the mural. You know, it'll be here a long time. That's, by the way, it's been up for now 7 years. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And thank you. Thank you. Tell your friends.
I do. They come and see it on their way in.
I love it,
You
yeah.
know, quick story, quick off story. I had some relatives in town from Bend last week actually. And I took them around, I gave them a tour of the art we're doing in town. I took them up by the mural. So we're standing there, and they thought it was great. We're standing, you know, across that little street. I guess that's a coincidence. Yeah. Across the street, and we're talking about the piece. And a lady drives by in her car, and she leans out the window. And I thought, oh man, hope I don't get nasty here. She leaned out the window and she said, "I love that. Let's have more of that." I said, "Tell your friends." So yeah, as long as it starts a conversation, that's what's important here. Never be afraid to cause a conversation. I tell the public art people, don't be afraid of what your neighbors and your friends might think if you pick this piece. If it's dramatic and it says something to you, then do it. And that's the kind of art that we're creating here. I was telling some people, the Public Art Committee just had a meeting a week ago, and the 6 pieces that are up on the highway now, they just voted for them, and we're going to have 6 new pieces in the next few months. And then the ones out on Bay Street will be replaced over the next few months as well. So it's going to be a constant turning of that art, which is a good thing. Give you something to talk about, something to think about. If you don't like it, it's no problem. We got to wait 2 years. If you like it, then you know, take a lot of pictures and hang out with it because you only got 2 years. Okay, so there's a lot of art going on everywhere. And what does FRA have to do with the Florence Regional Arts Alliance? Yeah, sure, of course.
Before we move on,
Yep.
2 questions. First, murals then don't rotate like artwork, and what is the philosophy of that? And I had written you an email once about why not take advantage of the opposite corner of 126 where the side of the 7-Eleven is a blank canvas, and wouldn't they just, I mean, is it easy for people to say, sure, paint my wall, or?
Well, there's a lot in that question. So,
Yeah, thank you.
as to the 7-Eleven, wait till the end of the presentation. Write this down, everybody. At the end of the presentation, there's a thing about 7-Eleven, so watch for that. As to the permanence of it, yeah, it's a big deal to get. You have to get the building owner to agree. In this case, we had to get the PUD to agree. Had sign a contract and to agree to put it on there. Yeah.
Why do you need a
Well,
contract?
because what can happen is if the PUD, if a building owner lets you put a mural on, and they decide to sell the building, well, guess what? You know, your mural can get painted over. So we have a contract with the PUD. I think it's about 10 years that says as long as they have the building that mural will stay up there. So it is yeah, it's a large expense also. So you want to make sure that it's going to stay there for a while. You know, that mural cost about $30,000. Basically, $20,000 of it was paid for by a grant. So the cost of the city was relatively small. And so, but in other walls around town, we have our eyes on some other walls around town, by the way. The one, I'll just tell you, the one down where they redid Rhodey along by the Humane Society along the river, that great big wall there.
Oh, yes.
Think about that for a minute.
Oh,
Whoa. But that will requires, you know, a permit from the city. You know, it requires a lot of call to artists and a lot of community input about what kind of art do you want to see. We did that with this mural as well. And there was a lot of opportunity for the community to input on this. Some people missed it. Some people didn't know that it was happening. And they were surprised by this because it's much brighter than most things around. So the answer to your question is, yeah, it's a big expense. You have to get the building owner to approve, and you have to get, everything has to be permitted, you know, you can't put Nazis, so you gotta be careful what you do. So it's a big kind of process. So that's why you don't wanna be doing it all the time. You wanna kind of put something up and have it stay there for a while. But to ensure that you do that, you wanna get everybody in the community, not to agree with it. You know, that's the danger you can have in public art is thinking that you're gonna have everybody agree to it. No, that's just not gonna happen. Any kind of art is subjective by nature, and should be. And so, but what you want is you want people on the public art committee who have been tasked with that responsibility to make good decisions. Excuse me, because they see a lot of art, and they have a lot of experience with looking at kinds of art. So they're in the best place to pick that art. But back to your question, it is a complicated process, and so that's why you want to kind of make it as permanent as you can. And stay tuned for the 7-Eleven. Other questions? Yes.
I know that the public art is for sale.
Yes.
And some have been sold.
Yeah.
What is the process for buying a piece of public art?
You simply contact, I think on all of the pieces, there's a tag on it with a QSR code, and you can simply contact the Public Art Committee, and they can work out a sale for you. And again, we sold 4 of them. And the city, by the way, gets a 30% commission on all that, which goes back into helping to fund the Public Art Committee. So it's a good deal all the way around. By the way, excuse me, the city's cost is minimal. I mentioned that it's back here. It's $440,000 worth of art that we have put up. It cost the city about $90,000, which is nothing. It's an ROI of like 400%. Because what you do, the city basically pays the artist $1,500 stipend for the rights to have their art for 2 years. So it's a very small cost to the city for a chance to get art that looks like this. Great program. By the way, I stole the program from Lake Oswego in case you thought I did. Most major cities have more robust public art programs than we used to. And so it's not difficult to find people that have great public art. It's in Wyoming, it's all over the place. You know, and so I just called up Lake Oswego and said, what are you doing? And they said, come on up, we'll show you. And so we learned from them. You can go to places like, well, look at Eugene, look at the murals in Eugene. You know, look at public art in places like Joseph. You've been to Joseph? You can't get there from here, right? But Joseph used to be basically an abandoned city. It was just nothing. It's still only about 1,000 people. But the public artists there decided to make bronze sculptures. And now every street corner in Joseph has a bronze sculpture. And people, it's a destination. People go there. That's what you can do with public art. And by the way, the biggest compliment I can give the committee is that now other cities are calling us. We got a call from Newport. They wanted to start their program. We gave them a lot of advice. We're talking to Bandon right now, and they want advice because they see what we've done, and they say, well, how'd you do that? And of course, we take all the credit. We don't tell them. We stole it all from the place. But no, we were very open about where we got it, and we were open about sharing with them so that if we can get public art all the way up and down the coast and inland, that'd be a great thing. That would change a lot of cities here. I think it's already changing Florence. You know, there's things to look at that are exciting and interesting. So, other questions? Okay, moving on here. What does FRA do? These are pictures of FRA, classes at FRA. First of all, before we started FRA, Florence already had a rich culture of artists. Backstreet was here, other galleries were here. There was also a group called the Florence Arts and Crafts Association. They operated out of Florentine, and they were here. And so there's also a lot of active individual artists who are very, very engaged in the community. Pancho Nosy Clark as an example of people who are engaged, Mike Wood. So when we started FRA, there was a lot of, you could sense there were a lot of people around who wanted something more. And so we just took advantage of that. We didn't create it, we took advantage of a feeling that was already here. But FRA is a very unique organization. First of all, it's a 501c3. It was formed in 2013. It's a nonprofit, and it's all volunteer. People sometimes have a hard time believing it's all volunteer, but it is. And we have no paid staff, it's all volunteer. We have an award-winning gallery. Our gallery has won the Best of Florence for the last 2 years. We have classes and workshops. We do exhibits and festivals. So, and we do art in the schools. So we're very unique. We're not just a gallery. We have a gallery, but that's not what FRA totally stands for. The gallery is just part of what we do. I'll explain more of that in a minute. This is what the gallery looks like, in case you haven't been in there. Hopefully you've been in there a while. This is the inside. There's like 80 artists represented. By the way, FRA has like 180 members, and about 80 of them exhibit here. One of the challenges that we had when we opened this gallery is that we wanted a big enough space so that back in the back we could teach classes, because we do more than just gallery, we teach classes. Well, over time, the classes got really popular. And so, every time we tried to have a class in the back, we had to move out a bunch of artwork, have a class. So it began to irritate both groups. Both the people who were in the classes said, well, how come we have no room? And the artists were like, how come you're taking my room? So fortunately for us, a space became available right around the corner. This is the new FRA Creative Center. It is so new, everything got signed. Okay? That's basically right behind Lovejoy's restaurant. It's the industrial-looking building on First. Jane Smoley had a gallery there.
Yes.
Before that, S.K. Lindsay had a gallery there. It's a beautiful space inside. It's got 2 big rooms, lots of light, and we're having a great. We've been in there 6 months now, and we're having a huge popularity about it because people like the space and the light and its room. John Leisure, who's one of our most famous and prolific artists there and teachers, has doubled his class size. We now have much more. We have a weaving class. We have all sorts of new classes, and this is dedicated to this space. So we're very excited about it. We're also going to paint the outside. Somehow we don't think gray is going to be very inviting for a while, so we're going to paint the outside. Possibly put a mural up. Okay? But again, we just thought we go through all this stuff. So anyway, this is the newest, most exciting thing that we've got going on right now. So the gallery's doing great, and now the Creative Center's doing great. Here's what we do in the Creative Center. We teach all kinds of classes. Here's some examples of classes that we teach. Drawing, writing. We have spoken word, written word. And all of this is part of our mission. This is FRA's mission. Unify and support all the arts. That's not just 3D and wall art and paintings. It is, as I mentioned, written word, spoken word, dance, music. That's our mission. That's what we want to do. We want to support all the artists in the community. By the way, everyone is an artist. Let that float down a bit. Everyone is an artist. And you're thinking, oh, come on, I can't draw a straight line. Well, who can draw a straight line? For one thing, I'm not an artist. But everyone is, if you have a passion about something and you're good at it, whether it's finance or whatever it is, you're an artist. It's like Nike says, everyone's an athlete. If you can jog or walk, you're an athlete. If you can do anything, if you're good at anything and like something, you're an artist. So keep that thought in mind. Do you have a question?
So creativity doesn't necessarily go along with a regular monthly rent. So how do you support the rent prices here? And yeah.
That's a very good question. We're going to come to that later too, but right now,
Oh, okay.
it's because of the people in the community, people like you, who are members. We have a membership. We have 180 members. They all pay a membership fee. We teach classes, and they pay a fee for classes. We have donations. People donate to us. So because they believe in what we're doing. So that's how it happens. It's not like we get a stipend from anybody. We have to do these kind of things. And the beauty of what we're excited about is that people are responding to it. Our membership is increasing, our donations are increasing. But we depend on that. And so at the end, you can't get out of the room by the way until you give some money. Just yeah. We look at the door like, did you lock that door? Okay. And our mission again is to support all the arts. This happens to be an event, it's called Poetry Slam. You ever been to a Poetry Slam? Tell you what, it's not Longfellow, is it? No. It's very raw and emotional. People share their deepest emotions about what they're feeling. And some people can't share their emotions without some vehicle, and art and poetry is a vehicle, especially in the schools. A lot of young people, you know, they seem to be quiet and introverted. Then you give them a chance to write a poem or speak a poem, and suddenly their innermost feelings come out. It's a wonderful thing to watch. It really is, but it's very emotional. So we support that, and we support dance, music, performance. We support all the arts. These are our values at Fraud. Everyone is an artist, and art brings joy to life. Those are the things that make us different, and rather than just having a gallery. Lots of great galleries in town, and we have a great gallery, but we want to encourage everyone to share their art and share their feelings about art. So what we did as we got this far, we realized, you know, we have a lot of good ideas. We have a lot of thoughts about the future, but what does the future look like for Fraud? So we engaged in a process to write a strategic plan. And we did a lot of public outreach. We hired a consultant. We got a grant, by the way, from Western Maine Community Foundation to hire a consultant. And we put together this strategic plan, which we're very proud. There's copies of it over here. By the way, along with all of our FRA paraphernalia, make sure you take some things. So, what's in the strategic plan? It's 4 points. One is public awareness and identity. You know what we found out? We found out that we think we're pretty great, right? FRA's pretty great. Everybody likes FRA. What we found out was a lot of people don't even know what FRA is. You know, what's a FRA? In the art community, we're well understood, but in the general public, we're not well known. So we engaged on this. This, by the way, is an example of what we're doing about that. We're coming out to public meetings and to community groups like this and telling you what we're doing, because we want everybody to know what Fraud does. By the way, that's how we get money. That's how people get excited about what we're doing and give us money. So step 1 of our strategic plan is happening right now before your eyes. We're here talking about it. Step 2 is programming, classes and workshops. I just talked about that. We've now got a new space. Now we got to fill it up. But there appears to be no shortage of people who want to teach classes and people who want to take classes. Now they have an easy way to do it. They don't have to go get in the back of our gallery and try to get some space. We have our own space. 3 is an expanded mission. This is an interesting concept that I'm going to talk about. And then sustainability, which is another way of saying we need revenue to keep going. So the first one I've already talked about. Classes and workshops. This is the inside of our new space. And we mentioned here we've done 10 classes in November and December, so we're just getting started. But we're very excited about it. When you go inside, you can see it's an open ceiling. We call it industrial chic. Which is kind of what it is. You know, by the way, that by having that insulation, that silver insulation, that also reflects the light. You know, we have a lot of good things going on in there. Now, the third thing is expanded mission. And this is an important concept. We want to be a hub. Most cities have a hub for arts and culture. They either have an arts council, and all of the art activities are coordinated through an arts council. FRA eventually wants to fill the role of facilitating all the information about the arts and culture in our community. We want to be the place where when you come to town and you want to know what's going on in the art world right now, I see a lot of stuff happening. Who would know that? Well, FRA would be the ones that you would come to. We're not there yet, but we're going to actively begin talking with all the other galleries in town and the other arts organizations in town about how we can work together and how FRA can play a role in being the facilitator of all of that. Lots of towns you go to, I was in Bend a few weeks ago, and you walk in the chamber and they hand you a thing that says, here's where all the art galleries are in town. Here's all the art activities that are going on. Boom. You know, and all of a sudden, you feel like you know what you're doing. We would like to play a role similar to that at FRA here. Is that if you want to know what's going on in arts and culture, you come to FRA and we'll help you. goal number 3. Goal number 4, sustainability. To your question about who pays for all this. We have sponsors, donations, we get grants. We're very active in the grant world as a 501c3, and increased membership and legacy giving. We have people who have put us in their trusts. I don't know if you know who Kat Duder was. Kat Duder was a very well-known artist, award-winning artist who was part of FRA. And when she passed, her family gave FRA a very nice donation as a legacy donation because she felt that FRA was such a big part of her life. So between membership and donations and classes and grants, that's how we keep the whole thing going. So our message to the community is, first of all, don't be afraid of art. You know, I get that a lot. I talk to people about art, it's, oh, I don't understand art. Sometimes it's kind of like wine. You know, there's a language in wine. Its essence is okay. And if you don't feel comfortable in that language, then you get intimidated by it and you back away from it. And so you don't want to get engaged in art because you don't want to be embarrassed. Well, don't do that. You know, art is what you like. If you like something, don't be embarrassed that you like it or don't like it. You know, so engage yourself. Art, by the way, is a verb. Art is a verb. Okay? You don't just walk back. Art, you engage in art. The creative process is art. Art's a verb. It's an active verb. And you gotta get engaged in it. So, and then everyone is an artist. Everyone is an artist. So what's now? How can FRA help you? Well, if you have an event, you want to sponsor an event, we'll work together with you on that. Like second Saturday, we're going to make second Saturday a bigger thing than it is. Many of you probably even know what second Saturday is. If you don't, that's okay. But that's not okay, but we want to make it a lot bigger than it is. So we could use help to do that. And we welcome any of your input. Call us, stop and see us. Now, did I say we'd come back to this? What does that look like? She's a plant. I planted her. What do you think would happen if we put something, it's right by the library, it's right here. You know, what would happen if the library put a mural about books on there, on that side of the 7-Eleven building, huh? What would that do to the community? Think about that.
Sure look a lot better.
Well, that's true. You know, anything looks better than a blank, you know, old building that's rusting and stuff. Here's another one.
Oh, wow.
You know what that is? That's the old Masonic building. Right? In fact, FRA is over on one corner and the Creative Center is on the other corner. What if we did something like that? Huh? That would create some attention. So the possibilities are endless about what can happen with art. How can you help FRA? Well, you could join. You could volunteer, take a class, teach a class. Is there something you're good at that you like to do, like to show others how to do it? Or if you just want to learn art, learn oil painting. I mentioned John Leisure, he's terrific at all levels. And don't be embarrassed if you say, well, I'm just brand new at it. So what? Then come along into the beginner class and get going. You gotta get started. You can donate, you can sponsor an event. And we encourage all of those things, by the way. So, do the arts matter? I started this conversation, do the arts matter? You think so?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think FRA matters?
Yes.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I'll try to approach this delicately. But the
No, I did the
mural.
mural. I've been insulted more than you can imagine.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's where I'm going.
Okay.
My wife and I moved into Florence probably a week or so after it was available for the public to view.
Uh-huh.
And of course we think it's a beautiful piece of art and we appreciate it being there. But it seems to have been polarizing with amongst a good percentage of our community who felt that it had a political message in it that they quite frankly just didn't appreciate. The diversity that it displays, the collage of colors were bothered some folks. Has that become part of your decision-making process now? Do you think about that as you choose new art pieces?
Of course. We,
And how do you do that?
we choose art pieces based on their impact. You know, you need to have a certain impact. You need to be noticed. You need to see it. It needs to say something. You know, otherwise you're just going to walk past it. Public art should be something that you're walking along, all of a sudden, oh wow, what's that? It makes you stop and think. So, and then the other thing is that we are committed to public input, which really gets to your question. How do you ensure that the art that you're putting up fits a public need? So we have lots of opportunities. Even when the mural was up, you may not have been here, the months that led up to that were a series of public meetings and notices in the paper and all that sort of thing, and on the radio that said, hey, we're getting ready to do this. We also had a group of citizens, public citizens, who formed the decision committee. They were the ones who made the final decision. So all you can do is get as much public input as you can so that you hear all those voices and you hear, you know, both pro and con. But you can't be, we heard a lot about the colorfulness of it because that's unusual here. And we recognize that it's an unusual piece. It was probably the boldest, brightest piece that's here. It wasn't just a sea lion or a whale lighthouse, you know, which is fine. But you can see those anywhere up and down the coast. Every city on the coast has a lighthouse, and sea lion, and a whale, and a bridge. So what we wanted was something that reflected the culture. Because if you look at it, the bridge is there, prominently displayed, you know, and also seagulls. And the two Native Americans, I mean, the Native Americans were here long before us, you know, but there was some controversy about that. We worked with the tribes, by the way. That's the other part about the input. You know, the tribes were here first, so we had the tribes come and help us. In fact, we had, on the original mural, there's a big white flower in the middle of it. And Jesse Beers, who's the cultural leader of the tribe, said, wait a minute, the white flower is kind of a symbol of death. It's like it's funerals and stuff. So we said, well, gee, I guess we won't do that. So we then made it more of a colorful ruby. He also helped us with the necklaces on the Native Americans. So everywhere we could, we got input from the public. But we recognize, I said earlier, that not everyone is going to agree with every piece of art. You know, that is just a fact. And so we need to be driven by, does it say something? Is it impactful? Did we take a lot of public input on it? You know? And then do we have qualified people on the committee who have experience and can make these kind of decisions? So that's what you can do. And then did we get a wide diversity of submissions? You know, and did we get a chance to review each of them? We had a lot of submissions on the mural on the PUD building. You know, and it was clear from the beginning that piece stood out over all the rest of them. So I'm kind of babbling on here, but the key is public input, I think.
Yeah. And what would you say to people that see a political message in it?
There's no political message. We don't do that. Okay, I don't know where that comes from. You know, we don't do that.
I literally came across a post on a local social media platform just within the last 48 hours that suggested that. That still is suggesting that.
You know, I can't do anything about what people post. All I can say is there is no political message. We don't do that at all. That has no bearing on anything we do. If someone takes a political message out of it, we can't do anything about that. If you see something and you say, well, to me that blank all over there says something awful, well, you know, what we can tell you is we don't do that. We don't do that. We won't do that. Can't do that. It's just against the thing. I think it might even say in our policies that you can't have any political messages or hate messages or any. I think that says in our submission policy, you can't do that. So again, if someone wants to read something into it, all I can say is that's not what's there. If you see see that, and that's you seeing it, not us.
Yeah. Thank you for your succinct answer.
Sure. Hope that's helpful. And there will always be, art will always cause, again, art will always cause a conversation. That's okay. As long as it's a civil conversation.
I don't know if I can put this together right or not, but a lot of pieces that maybe cause controversy, especially about diversity, people who wouldn't know those were two Native Americans, but they might think they're black or Hispanic or whatever they are, that could be very inspiring to them and to other people who are haters, and it starts that controversy. That can actually be a good thing, because a lot of people who aren't haters and maybe never say anything about problems will hear others saying terrible things, and they'll finally stand up and stand with those people, and it can be a good change that started out as a bad thing. And
That's
so
very
pieces
important.
like that are needed.
That's again why art should make you think.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, well, it comes out just what you said. You think about it, no, that's wrong. What that person is saying is not what's in there. Or that's
Yeah.
not what I'm seeing. And mostly that's not what was intended. What was intended
Well, a
is
lot
just-
of cultures too have those bright, bright colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hispanic, African, Native American. That is in our cultures to have those bright, beautiful colors.
It is. But we recognize that it was unique. Florence doesn't have a lot of bright colors like that in art that's outside other than this.
It cheers you up, bright colors.
Funny story about it though, if you look, I should get it back to you. On the mural, there's the bridge is prominent in the background. And there's a deer standing on the bridge. And the deer is purple. And I remember I heard, oh man, I must have heard 50 times. I've never seen a purple deer standing on a bridge. Okay. But you talk to the artist about it, that's what they came here, they're from Portland, by the way, they came to spend a lot of time here. And they wanted to show a deer, and purple is just a favorite color of hers, so she had a purple deer. So people were making t-shirts, by the way, purple deer t-shirts. It became a thing. Yeah. That's to your point, is that if you want to push back, just say, isn't that fun? Yeah, purple deer is kind of strange, but isn't that fun? And the artist didn't see it as strange at all. The artist said, no, I see a deer, and I see your bridge, and I like purple. Okay. You know? Yeah.
Just to comment on the purple deer controversy, I never did see t-shirts, but I used to say, we needed to make t-shirts that say Florence, home of the purple deer. I think it would be great, but I was told it might be some kind of copyright thing because of the artist.
Yeah, that's true.
So you couldn't do it.
That's true. I should have mentioned that's why we didn't do any more with it. People did it on their own. But yeah, the artist owns all those rights. You know, so you can't, and you can understand why you can't do that. You can't let people take things out of somebody else's art and make money on it. So yeah. But it was fun. It was just fun just the same. Still is. Other questions? Yeah.
I just want to comment that, to thank you for the last 10 years. I think it truly has changed the ambiance and the image of Florence, that we have all the artwork that we have. So
Good.
thank you for all you've done.
Good. Good. Thank
Yes,
you.
I love those cell keys or seals.
Me and my wife actually moved here because we looked at all of the cities up and down the coast, and Florence had the most beauty in the art and the restaurants and everything, and it was just the best city on the coast, and so we decided to move here.
Wow. We should quote it. We should send that out somewhere.
It'll be on the radio.
Yeah. Send that to the chamber and the city council. Let's go.
One of the requests I've
Yeah.
often come across is, why is there no art north of 9th Street?
Okay.
And could I just maybe a suggestion? The north end of town would be a great place to have, as we enter the town, have some sort of display that would characterize us as a town that appreciates our veterans and loves our art.
I'm gonna answer all those things. First of all, the reason it all started down on Bay Street because we initially began working with the Florence Urban Renewal Agency. they immediately recognized the value of public art, and they said, okay, we're gonna give you spaces in our district, and that district is Bay Street. And that's where we started. And once that became more popular, and the city council and people began to realize how cool that was, then it began expanding, and expanded out to the highway. It also began expanding. We have a piece at the senior center. We have a horse at the senior center. Yeah. So, and we have some pieces out at the entrance to the city. So, to answer your question, we're gradually moving, out of where we started. We started because Fura, Urban Renewal, gave us permission to do that, and they probably wanted to see if it was going to work or not, and it did. So now we're going to start moving further up. But part of it's just, it's got public works. I mean, we've been working with public works. They have to build those bases, and so it just a matter of how fast we can do it. We started with 5 spaces, now we have 14. So we're gradually getting there. So have patience, we'll get to the north side.
Yeah, sure. Can you talk more about the classes that you are providing at FRA?
Sure. First of all, you can get on the FRA website. It's fraoregon.org, or in paper every week. We have a column that shows where all the classes are. You can stop by the FRA gallery. So it's either in paper or on the website is probably the best place, because that's going to show you all the classes are. And as I said, with the new space, now we're going to open up a lot more classes. People who said, I always want to teach a class, well, where do I do that? And so now we have spaces. Like I said, weaving just started. It's kind of cool. We're hopeful that we can get a kiln down there soon. Yeah. And if that happens, then that opens up a whole bunch of other possibilities. So, yeah, that space is really gonna mean something. Industrial chic is gonna be cool.
FraOregon.org?
Org.com, yeah.
I just remember many years ago now when the Register Guard was in full press, and the reporter was very familiar with the Oregon coast and yachts, etc. And so he began a series. You take 126 to the coast and you get to 101, you turn north and here's Lincoln City and Newport, etc. Or even Coos Bay, North Bend. But the one he did on Florence was you get to the intersection and then you say, oh, ho-hum, do I turn north or do I turn south? Yeah. And so I want everyone to know that I give Harlan Springer, credit for bringing the art to this town. He spoke to City Club 10, 12 years ago, and the mayor at that time was, oh, there's no money in art. Well, Harlan, being a businessman, knew there was. And so what you see, is because of Harlan and his efforts. And thank you very much.
Yay,
Well, like I said, we had a lot of help. When I went out and started talking to people, it was clear there was already a passion for it in the community. It just needed some way to channel the passion into something a little more organized. So that's kind of all I did. Was I view my role as keeping the herd moving roughly west. You ever try to keep artists moving roughly west? But the artists, they have wanted it. They wanted just a way to. They just want a venue to show their work, And some of them are. They didn't have a way or a thought process to get that done. Again, we had great galleries, we had Backstreet and other galleries, but now they have a place where they can display their art, they can teach classes, they can take classes. All those things are now available to them. So that was already there before I got here. I just sort of tapped into what was here. But thank you, that's very nice. Yes?
Are there ceramic classes?
Well, I think if we get the kiln done, then there will be. It'll be glass,
Okay.
it'll be glass and ceramic, yeah.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's going to be fairly soon.
That'll be really great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we got space for it, Yes, art.
That'll change lives.
Yeah, art does fantastic things. You know, it really does. It makes people feel good. You talk about joy. Joy is an overused word sometimes, but art makes you feel joyful. It makes you feel good about what's going on, no matter what's going on in the world. Art has a way of making you feel good.
It's like the joy of the Lord, who is the biggest creator
Yeah.
and artist.
When we were in Maui, they had shops set up where you could go in and do your own glass work, and people would show you how to do it. And children were participating, people just shopping for the day, you know, what restaurant are we gonna go to, and they'd stumble upon this place and spend the day making art. It was really wonderful to see.
All that you need to do is get the word out to say this is available. That's really what FRA is trying to do. Is say that this stuff is available here. You know, come and see it, come and do it. So they don't come to the intersection and go north or south.
Thank you.
Other things. This is great. Well, thank you for your participation and your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as a special reminder, next month's City Club meeting will be held
Can you hang on
at
a
a
second?
different location.
Justin, can you hang on a second?
Yeah. Sure. No worries. Next month's City Club meeting will be held at a different location for the month of May only. City Club will be held at the Florence Unitarian Universalist Building, the corner of Highway 101 and Cedar Beach Road. In closing, we leave you with the following words again from that famous person unknown, life's most persistent and urgent question. What are you doing today for others?